Hello, beautiful people. This is Daylina Tenen. You're listening to According to Mike and Tony, the best podcast in all the land.
What's going down, everybody? Welcome to episode number 12. You here yet, Mike? Pierce?
I'm here. I'm always here with you, buddy. You know that.
Oh, man, I didn't get you a little stand.
No, you're good.
Okay. Mike's looking at his tablet there, holding it old school. We're very excited this week. We got a very spectacular guest here with us, Mike Patty from the Pier.org, a very cool online source for Reggae-Rock music, one of my personal favorites. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on, man.
Yeah.
We were going to have you on once before.
Yes, I know. I apologize.
No, please don't. The plague got you.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you before the show, I got 3 kids, so there's pretty regularly a plague going through my house, most definitely. So we also got Dom Impey hanging for the moment, right?
Yeah, I'm here for a little bit. I might have to leave in a little while. So.
You might have to leave, yeah. Well, we're waiting on Bruce Leroy. Hopefully he rolls in at some point.
Another black guy will replace me.
Running on CPT, like we said earlier.
So what's new, Mike? You had a birthday. This is Mike Pierce I'm talking to. I'm going to have to start calling you Pierce today.
All right, yeah.
I think it's going to be Pierce and Patty.
Pierce and Patty.
That's going to be the easier way to go.
So neither of us get the name Mike then.
No.
We cancel each other out.
No. I get pissed when there's more than one. I just remove it from your possession.
Yeah. No, I actually came back from Casa Bonita right before coming over on the podcast. It's my annual Casa Bonita trip for my birthday. Been going to Casa Bonita since I was like 5 years old.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, so
You rave about that place.
Yeah.
I feel bad I've never gotten in there before. It's a big Colorado thing.
Yeah.
Everyone always tells me the same thing. The food's horrible and the entertainment's amazing.
That's what I've heard. I haven't been there yet.
Oh, you haven't been either?
No.
Oh, yes.
But that's what I've heard. The food's awful.
we'll have to do a Casa Bonita trip, guys, one day.
Is the food awful?
I like the food.
You like the food?
Yeah.
No?
I bet my kids would like it, right? There's lots of...
Oh, yeah.
What kind of entertainment do they have down there?
They have everything. They have the cliff divers. They have fire juggling. They have...
And that's Casa Bonita. That's with South Park, right? They
Yeah.
made famous by South Park.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cartman loved that place.
Yeah, but it's everything for a kid. They have an arcade there. It's like a whole thing, a whole level, like 3 levels of stuff there. And then actually recently, the founder of Casa Bonita died.
What?
Like,
Oh,
right before my birthday.
You know, I
Right
saw
before my
that.
birthday.
Yeah.
He died, but yeah, no, it's a cool place.
They have they have like performers and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they have
all kinds
cliff
of
divers.
exciting.
They jump into the water. They have little kid shows. Black Bart. They have a little gorilla named Chiquita that comes through. But yeah, dude, it's a cool little place. Take a family. It's right on.
Yeah.
All right. Dom Impey is leaving.
The shortest guest appearance we've ever had.
Take it easy, Dom.
Yeah, take it easy, buddy. It's always good to see you, man. Looking forward to that EP coming out.
Hey, man. Nice to meet you.
I was telling him we'll try and get him back in March, have him
buddy.
come on. Let's get down to business, man. The Pier.org, one of my favorite deals as a reggae artist myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It's the place to go. It really is. It says on your site the #1 online resource for reggae, the reggae
authority.
rock. Oh, is the authority? Is that what it said? Yeah, they are though. I mean, you go there for everything. I was checking out stuff today. You guys got like acoustic. You got a lot going on.
Yeah.
When you first started this, back in 2007, is that correct?
Well, yeah, I actually did not start it. A guy, he prefers the name Palipo. He started it back in 2007. And, at the time, there was a lot of people starting websites, making tributes to their favorite bands or the genre itself. And
Right.
I remember when he started it, I had a clothing line at the time called Sense Boardwear. And through that, I would put out compilation CDs that, would have different bands on it. In fact, the Sense Boardwear compilations were the first physical pressing of any Dirty Heads music. So it was, they got around and it got to this Palipo guy, and he would always stay in contact with me about what different bands were doing because of these compilations I was doing. I knew what bands were in the studio working on new music, and I would feed him information for his blog. And after a year of doing it, he did it every single day, making updates himself. He didn't have a staff. It was just him. And, that's respectable to this day. And
Right.
we saw opportunity in that. After sticking with it for a year, it caught on. And we decided that we wanted to take it from more of a blog to more of a magazine. More, we had vision of it being kind of the Rolling Stone magazine for the reggae scene. And when we say reggae rock, that's all encompassing. That's reggae hip hop, dancehall reggae ska, acoustic reggae, punk rock reggae. There are so many
reggae influenced music.
So many. And we do our best to keep up with it all. And I think the easiest way, whatever you can imagine in a live setting, is what we try to include on our site. So if you can imagine this band playing with that band live, that's who we try to cover. Anything that you would see in a normal live setting. We cover no effects. We're a reggae site, but we like to include some punk rock.
Yeah, for sure. It's not too rigid as far as
and it's not uncommon to see a punk rock band playing with a reggae band at a live show.
Yeah,
at least not for me growing up.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Looking through the site, that was one of the things that struck me. Really strikes me. It's just how comprehensive it is, dude. You've got so much different kinds of content that you're producing for people, and I think that's what keeps people coming back. There's so much cool stuff. I was watching the live acoustic series stuff you guys do. I watched a couple of those. Dirty Heads.
Dirty Heads is one of my favorite ones.
Actually, not to get on too much of a tangent, but I thought that was so ridiculous. Is it Lay Me Down? I think was the one. Was that the one that was originally?
I thought that was Cabin by the Sea. That you guys
did. We did Cabin by the Sea.
No, I'm not talking about the acoustic session thing. I was reading a thing about how the first time that song was released, was it that? I might have the right song. Wrong song.
No, Lay Me Down's right.
With Rome.
Yeah, with Rome. We put that out in August of 2009. We put out our first Pier compilation. It was a volume 1, and that was the first physical pressing of Dirty Heads' "Lay Me Down." And then the following summer, summer 2010 is when it went number 1 and set records for an independent artist at number 1 on the Billboard charts. And we were originally actually going to have an acoustic version of the song.
Really?
And we still have the acoustic version that they had with it, and basically it sounds the same. It's just minus the drums. But that was the first physical pressing, and that was right at the time when the Sublime with Rome was kind of being negotiated. There was a lot of controversy about it at the time on whether or not it was going to move forward.
Right, I remember that whole deal.
And we put out Rome's music too on that same compilation. There's Rome is on there, and that's the first physical pressing of any of Rome Ramirez's music as well.
Yeah, there was like 19 songs or something like that on there, which was pretty incredible.
And we always had plans of doing volume 2 or putting out more volumes, but since 2009, the scene has expanded and grown so much, and there's so many other companies out there putting out compilations and doing a great job. And when you get to that level, it's like, well, maybe we figure something else out and maybe do something different. People aren't buying CDs anymore. Vinyl is back in a huge way. Over the last few years, vinyl's come back, and we have some plans to do maybe a vinyl only compilation, something that we're looking into. And we also do digital samplers, where we just put out digital compilation albums. And we always like to, because the scene is so big, we always like to focus on a certain region. We've done Japan, we've done the Pacific Northwest, Pacific Island, and I think we're going to do another regional sampler by summer here. We just haven't decided which
region
yet. We have one in mind, but not quite ready to announce it just yet.
Sure.
But those always went over great with the fans. So we really want to get back to those samplers and compilations and releasing exclusive music.
Yeah, no, and I love that, man. Even I've had some music that I've sent your way that's been on your website and stuff, and I think it's so cool.
Yeah, Tony Dollar.
Yeah, it's really
our MP3 massive. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Which is just a really cool thing. I've listened to so much stuff off of there because it's people that you haven't necessarily heard of, but they're out there making music and they're solid, and it's just really cool to see. Like we were talking about before the podcast about building a following and stuff as a musician is sort of like building a community, but you have built a community here. And maybe the community was kind of there, and it's sort of a group that you've tapped into to a certain extent.
Yeah, I've actually been involved. I grew up a huge Sublime fan. I've followed and trended anything Sublime. Second I found out about Sublime, from there I discovered Long Beach Dub All Stars, Slightly Stupid, Pepper.
For sure.
And it just spread from there. And in high school I started a clothing line and called Sense Boardwear. I alluded to that earlier, but a guy gave me advice and said, if you want people to pay attention to your clothing, get bands and musicians to wear it on stage. And so the first bands I started hitting up were Pepper, and there were some Long Beach bands at the time called Chapter 11 and Brethren Daddies, and I would hook them up with clothing and decided there's a scene here that nobody's really talking about, that no one's really spotlighting. I remember going to record stores, and this is before social media and before you could just easily find stuff online. You had to go to the record stores.
Yeah, right.
I remember they were my source. I'd go and talk to the guy and say, "Hey, what do you have in here that's like Sublime?" And they would have no idea. They would recommend me Sugar Ray, because of Fly.
That's the closest we got.
This was late '90s. I'm trying to find more bands like Sublime, and it went into 2002. I put out my first compilation called "Shit for Your Shit," and it was a Sense Boardware compilation, and that had Dirty Heads on there before they were called Dirty Heads. It was just Duddy B and Dirty J, and they had a couple songs on there, and and that's back when CDs actually sold, and we'd put them online, and they sold in like 50, damn near all 50 states, and a few countries by word of mouth, just putting it out online. It turned out that there was a need for that reggae rock music, and all it was, I was that annoying friend in high school that wanted you to check out this new band that you'd never heard of, and I would annoy you, keep you in my car for a half hour playing you every track off an album, so it was just fitting that I was able to channel that through the Pier. And what started out as 3 partners is me managing a staff, and they're what makes it work. They make it work. Aaron Solomon out of Florida, he's been a loyal writer of the Pier for a number of years. He's always queuing us in on what news is taking place that we can cover. I mean, it's huge to be able to have news out there before it's up on Facebook and the social media, and we try to stay ahead of all of that. And as the scene has grown, it's become a little bit more difficult because there's just so much more information out there than when the whole scene was coming together. Now everybody has a reggae rock band, so it's tough to keep up, and a lot of them play a lot of great music.
Yeah, no, there's it's always mind-boggling how much good music really is out there. So you're from California, right?
Yeah.
Southern California?
Yeah, San Diego, North San Diego, Oceanside,
so
California.
And in high school too, so you were pretty damn close to that whole scene up in Long Beach. And
yeah, it's funny. My grad night, instead of spending it with my classmates on grad night, I was sponsoring a show at Club Soho with Slightly Stupid and Long Beach Short Bus.
Yes.
And I had my clothing line booth up there, and that was my grad night.
Fucking A, man. That's so cool. You had that entrepreneurial spirit, like, from the beginning. What made you want to start with the clothing line? How did you get into that?
I took an ROP printing and graphics class. My cousin, who was about a year and a half older, he took the same class, and he came to live with us right when I was becoming a junior in high school, and he recommended that I take it as an elective. And in that class, you got to make T-shirts, business cards, letterheads.
Oh man!
And while everyone was making their own Hurley T-shirts, it's like, well,
my own brand.
Yeah, I'll come up with a clothing line, and I had to for a project. You create a business, and you're graded throughout the year, and so I was like, well, I'll come up with a clothing line, and started selling it to friends. And like I said, that guy told me the best way to expand the clothing line is to get musicians wearing it. And that's what kind of tuned me in. It's like, well, I like reggae music, so maybe I can find some reggae rock bands to wear it. And
damn.
Pepper was one of the first bands to support me back then. That was like 2000, 2001. So it was, that kind of got me in the clothing. And after a while, I realized I was more about the music than I was having a clothing line and coming up with new designs. And, it was just easier to talk more about the music. And
so when was the last time that you did your actual clothing line then?
Probably the last time I printed anything for Sense Boardware, like in 2008. And we put out an all acoustic compilation with the Sense Boardware in 2010. I think we put out like 5 or 6 compilations with Sense Boardware. All reggae rock. It was all a mixture of reggae rock bands. And I worked with the studio out of Southern California, and I made a deal with them and said, if I get these bands to come through your studio, will you put this compilation, these compilations together for free? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay. So, we had more control doing it that way with the compilation. It wasn't just bands sending me music they already had. I convinced them to come to the studio and record something new and unreleased, something. And these compilations still, there's music on there that you still can't find on iTunes, because we would create custom songs. He would produce, a beat and get the singer of Dirty Heads and a hip hop artist from this band and a singer from that group, and they'd all come together on a collaboration track. And to this day, you can't find it anywhere but on these compilations, and we only printed 1,000 of each volume. So they're kind of rare, and they're like little rare gems that some fans know about. But,
yeah, man.
So those were always fun, doing those back in like the early 2000s. And
that's cool.
Just doing our little part to get the music out.
Yeah, no kidding, man. It's interesting how you found your way to it through a clothing line kind of deal. Were you a musician yourself?
No, I can't play anything.
No?
Yeah.
But a music
nothing.
Enthusiast.
Yeah, I can make noise, but that's about it. Yeah, it's not pleasant.
Oh, that's hilarious. So you were not in bands and all that kind of stuff, just into the music itself.
Yeah, just love the music. That's all.
Damn, that's way cool.
So what is like your favorite band that you're listening to now then? Yourself personally?
Oh, God.
That's a good question, Pierce.
Yeah. I mean, are we talking for a Monday morning? I mean, what
gets you? Okay, what gets you through the day? Gets you through the day?
It's not so much any particular band. What gets me through I love acoustic. I love anything stripped down acoustic. Get away all of those overdubs and excessive production. Give me the live raw music. That's what gets me through the day.
Yeah.
I have an acoustic playlist of probably about 60 songs, and I could listen to that playlist, and that's it every single day. And that's why we wanted to do the Pier's live acoustic series, is because it's more of a band being, they're performing in a stripped down environment. There's some bands that I just prefer in that setting. I think there's something to say about that, rather than trying to control everything in the studio, controlling every vocal and every guitar. I don't know too much about production. I'm not going to talk and pretend like I do, but I can tell when something's stretched a little too far as a result of excessive production. And I just prefer something live, acoustic, and stripped down.
You're preaching to the
raw.
choir with me, man.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Acoustic is definitely my deal. I love listening to acoustic music, playing acoustic music. I've told the story before on the podcast about how all I ever wanted to do was play electric guitar.
Yeah.
When I was 15, I just didn't have the money to get it and stuff, but I had friends all over the place that had acoustic guitars and nobody played them.
Huh.
So I ended up playing acoustic for many, many years, and then finally came to that point where I was like, oh my God, it's that day. I can go buy an electric guitar. And I got one. I think it was a Fender Tele or something, and jammed on it for a while, and then I was just like, it's not the same. And I realized, man, I've forever got this passion for the acoustic sound, that really stripped down raw. And back in the day, like the MTV Unplugged and stuff.
Yep.
I was
and that's what set the tone for me, was that MTV Unplugged. I mean, that gets right to the soul, man. Especially if you got a group that can perform stripped down acoustic. There's a lot of bands that I consider studio bands. They require that production. You get them in an acoustic setting, and it's not quite as appealing. But that's just a personal preference. I still like all the other stuff. I like the reggae, hip hop. I like bands like Dirty Heads. Again, my favorite band obviously is Sublime. And that's what changed it for everything for me, was that album, 40 Ounces to Freedom.
Oh, right.
I mean, I don't think there's been anything since that album that's been quite as original as that. It's unbelievable.
So raw. Talk about getting at the heart of what you're talking about, that lack of overproduction. I mean, some of those songs were just so raw.
Yeah, and that soul comes through every single song. You don't need that excessive production for those songs to sound good. I think that's a great example that you can have soul without all that excessive production, or just trying to and I get it, there a lot of that stuff is good, but music is subjective. It's going to speak to everyone differently. With the Pier, we cover all of it, because we just want to spread the awareness of what's going on in the whole reggae rock scene. So it's good to just cover it all. And, everyone has their different preference of what they like, whether it's the reggae hip hop, the dancehall reggae, the hard roots reggae, which I think there's a bigger movement in the roots reggae scene right now than any other subgenre. of
Seems that
reggae.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are seeing that, which I love too. I
Yeah.
love roots reggae
Yeah.
for sure, man. I'm a hardcore. I always loved Sublime too, but I was a hardcore Bob Marley fan, and back in the day, like Toots and the Maytals and stuff like that.
Right,
Like
yeah.
really into that kind of stuff too. But you're right. It's sort of just reggae influenced music nowadays, and to hear that little bit of touch of reggae in anything makes me happy.
Yeah, that was like one of my. You're talking about Sublime. Like one of my albums that I had from theirs is one of my favorites. Is their a compilation that they had, Secondhand Smoke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite compilations that they had, and that was
that's
dude, I
great.
played that out. I remember, and when I had the Camaro back in the day, just blaring that rolling down the street.
When was this? What year are you talking? Are you talking high school? You said?
Yeah, that's high schoolish, man.
I think that came out in '98.
Yeah.
I want to say
Yep.
maybe '99.
What year was your Camaro? I'm
It's a
curious.
95.
Dude, I think my mom had a 95 Camaro.
Wow.
A little bit, right around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I could totally picture you rolling in a Camaro, bumping Sublime, hell to the yes. Now with the acoustic sessions, like we were talking about, like, again, seeing your website and seeing how much you guys do, it blows my mind. So, like, you have a studio set up for that, or
No, and with the live acoustic series, all credit to that. Really, with that goes to the director. I mean, that's Taga Plantel. He's a phenomenal director, and our photographer, who's in Denver, Kit Chalberg, he kind of brought this whole project together, and he does a tremendous amount of work during production of these videos. It's one of those things to where it's difficult to plan these videos, because a lot of the times we have to get bands while they're on tour.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming through, and there's a lot of logistics that you got to go through in securing a video spot. And, obviously we have to have a place to shoot it at. And ideally we want to shoot it at the place where the band is playing. And that's worked for us so far, especially if it's Cervantes. Cervantes, they've been phenomenal with giving us access, in the afternoon before the show to set up and, take an hour out to record the video. And, we've recorded at Cervantes, Jackson's, the Fox Theater in Boulder. That's where we did
right.
Dirty Heads.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we still have a few more to premiere. And that's the thing. It's these videos that we do with the bands. It's because they want to be a part of it. We're not. It's nothing to where they pay us or we pay them. An incredible amount of money to come in and do this. It's really like you were saying before. It's that community aspect of it. And we've gotten some great quality videos thanks to Taga Plantel. He does great work with the video.
They're fantastic. The
Yeah.
audio quality, just everything about it.
Those
Sort
are-
of,
And that's Kyle Zender. He does a great job with the audio, and he comes in with the sound, and he has all of that dialed in. And we have a couple more. We did one with this band called Air, AER. They're kind of like a hip hop group, and they did one that was pretty cool. And we also have one with Pacifier and Ballyhoo, and then another one with Zach Deputy that we still haven't premiered yet.
no, that's coming. Huh?
I want to do that
Yeah.
Ballyhoo one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been liking them lately too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But no, I think the one I really liked was Cabin by the Sea. And that was a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was
13?
with Dirty Heads. Yeah, 2013.
Yep.
They came through Boulder, and we were able to make that happen with them. And there's a lot of groups that we still want to be able to continue filming and produce for. It's just hard with the bands coming on tour. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
What I was going to say too, it seems like do your writers travel and stuff too, and meet people in places, or do you guys mostly work right here out of Denver-ish?
No, we're spread out. So I'm in Denver. Kit, Taga, we're all Denver based. David Norris, he's been with the Pier since 2009. He's one of our top photographers. He's based out of San Diego. Okay. Blake Taylor, I know Mike knows Blake.
Yep.
He's based out of Seattle, along with Eric Shoup, who does our show locator. And we're really spread out. We brought on Kayla Cush out of Wisconsin. She has a podcast that she does weekly as well with UW Radio, and she just came on. We just did an interview with Ian Young. That was her first interview with the Pier. So I mean, we're kind of spread out, and that's what I like. I got we got people on staff from different cities and states, bringing different perspectives of, bringing different perspectives to the Pier with how the music speaks to them, and that's Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool how it all comes together. You know?
Yeah.
And Aaron Solomon, he's out of Florida. You know, so there's quite a few of us.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I was looking at that at I think it's your about section,
Yeah,
maybe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just got all these different people on there. And I swear, when I first looked at this, there wasn't that many people on there. It seemed like it's growing fast, man.
It is. You know, it's one of those things where it's always changing around too. You know, sometimes we'll get a rider that's on for 6 months, and you know, he gets an opportunity elsewhere, he or she. You know, and we're constantly changing around staff. You know, we're bringing on new writers, photographers. You know, the important thing to us is we like to keep everything in-house as well.
Yeah.
So if you see any banners, ads, any of the photos, those are all in-house photos, whether it's by David Norris, Kit Schallberg. You know, we don't use any Google stock images. You know, so it's all in-house. I mean, what I thought was cool was our 2015 most anticipated albums article.
Yes.
The artwork for that, you know, we had a lion on there making a face at the camera.
Yes.
And was it? It might have been a tiger. It might have been a tiger.
I think that's the one where I texted
It was a
you.
liger.
That's when I texted you.
It does. It is.
That is a dope. I was like, that is a dope graphic you have on there.
Yeah, no, it is a tiger. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, and you know that was taken at the San Diego Zoo. You know, it's just all in house and it's all fun. You know, we have a blast doing this. Yeah, sticking his tongue out.
Yeah, no, that's like I saw it. I was like looking at Twitter and everything, and I was like, man, who does all your production, dude? I was like, that is a dope ass ad. The 2015.
That's Empire Design. Cameron Schuler, he's been doing all of our graphic designs lately, and the guy's phenomenal, man. You know, you give him an image of an idea of what you want, and he puts it together. You know, Empire Design, Cameron Schuler, Casey Cohen. She's a really big artist in the scene right now. Casey Cohen, she's been doing art for Slightly Stupid, and Jimmy Buffett, I think she did stuff for.
Really?
You know, so we're fortunate to be working with some great designers between Cameron and Casey. I mean, they're on point.
Yeah, for sure. No, everything just looks fantastic on the site. And I know I keep coming back to it and trying to beat a dead horse, but I'm so blown away by how much you do and how much it feels to me like it would be a nightmare trying to keep track of all this stuff. Everything. I mean, you've got audio productions going on. You got writers constantly putting up stuff. You've got big articles like this where you've got, I mean, you're talking how many artists are even, it's 15, right? Let's see. Or how many artists do you have on there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15. Oh, this just goes on. How many are on the album, the 2015 most
25
anticipated? 25.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, 25, and that's, you know,
so.
And there easily could have been 5, 6 more added to that, you know.
Sure,
and
sure.
So it's just like, well, you know, should we just have it be the most anticipated albums ever? I don't know. It's just there's so many albums, and when we published it, you know, there were fans like, hey, you forgot this album, or what about these guys? What about that? And it's like, you know, we like to be surprised too, you know, and just because we didn't include them doesn't mean that they're not on our radar. It's just there's, you know, 25, I feel like that's a good way to cap it off and keeping it the most anticipated. And they're not in any particular order.
Yeah.
But there's great albums coming out this year.
Stephen Marley's got a new one coming.
We've been waiting for a couple of years on the Stephen Marley album.
Yeah.
The Fruit of Life, you know, that was supposed to be a follow-up to his 2011 release, I believe it was. And you know, there's Slightly Stupid. You know, they have an album coming out this year, and that's always exciting because Slightly Stupid, I mean, you never know what they're going to do on an album. You know, you never know what guest appearances they're going to have, who they're going to work with, and that's always pretty exciting. Not just as a fan, but you know, being with the Pier, it's exciting to report on. You know, there's talk of Pepper putting out a new album. The Skints, you guys really have to check out the Skints from Europe.
There,
They're an East London band. They have an album coming out March 10th in the U.S. with Easy Star Records. And if there's anyone to follow in this scene that's staying on top of it, it's Easy Star Records. Their roster, the bands that they have signed, it's just they're all trendsetters in this scene, man. I mean, they got the Green, Pacifier, Giant Panda. They just signed the Skints. They got Backbeat Sound System, who are also from the UK. Revolution, Easy Star All Stars, John Brown's Body, Cass Haley. You know, before the production, we were talking
he's got an
about
album
Cass
coming
Haley.
out, right?
Yeah, he's on there for most anticipated. So, you know, Easy Star Records is doing a pretty great pretty great job of signing some phenomenal bands.
Where are they based out of?
New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe Rochester, New York. But yeah, Eric, Lem, Michael Goldwasser, the producer, they're just doing a phenomenal job over there.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'll definitely pay them a visit.
Yeah,
kinda
it says
check
here the
stuff out.
Skints, their album is the FM.
Yeah, album FM coming out March 10th, and I think there's a lot of good bands coming out of London. And you can tell with Easy Star picking up a Backbeat sound system out of the UK, and now the Skints. I think there's more to be said about London-based reggae groups that a lot of folks aren't really paying attention to.
Yeah, definitely. You named a few groups I didn't know that I definitely want to check out now, though.
Yeah, and you can check out Backbeat sound system. We have him in our MP3 Massive.
Oh, cool.
So if you go in there, it's nothing but free music. There's no email sign up, none of that BS.
Yeah,
the only
hell
pain is that you can't do it from your phone. You have to get on a physical computer to download.
To actually download.
Because it's a zip file. When you download it, you get the picture, the bio, the MP3. So you got a little bit.
Right.
Essentially the album.
Yeah, so you're enabled to know who they are and links to their, to follow them. And so, yeah, that's nothing but tons of free music in there. Some of it's exclusive to that section.
Yeah,
so.
it's a mind-boggling amount of music,
Yeah.
really. There's like so much. You could go through it every day and still just keep finding new stuff.
I was going to say, have you gone through that whole list before?
The whole list? No.
I've tried to. I've actually gone through there before and just come on scrolling.
Going to the next page.
Yep,
and
next page.
we plan on updating that page so it's a little easier to find music, and you can have like a drop down scroll and pick the band. And it's just it's just a matter of getting to that. And there's so much to manage. With just the flow of content coming in, and the staff getting constant emails, whether it's from labels, PR firms, bands.
Do you go through your emails yourself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I go through, obviously, I got my personal email that bands contact me on, but we have our general contact as well. And, I'll monitor that, just general emails.
Is that something you want to give out?
Yeah, it's just info@thepier.org.
Perfect.
So when people go through our contact page, it goes to info@thepier.org mailbox. And yeah, I monitor that, and I do my best to get through as many of the emails as I can. But for bands, I mean, the best advice I can give to bands emailing is, have a press kit, have everything ready. Don't send me your entire catalog of music. Maybe send your top song, the one that's just in your face right away, that's going to leave a great first impression, because you can only have one first impression.
True.
So send over all the materials, just enable me with information and a good song. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, there'll be bands, they'll just hit me up like, hey, how do we get onto your site? And it's just like, I don't know how to answer that. That's something that you should be asking yourself.
It's so interesting to hear your perspective and your side of things. Because like we were talking about before the podcast, I spent a lot of years as a real dummy musician, being on the other side of those things where you're just like, how do I get on your website? Like, how about
throw up all your stuff at
yourself together first? And yeah, no, it's I can't imagine trying to go through all those emails and how many people must contact you wanting to get on the site. And
yeah, and it's really flattering. I mean, it's I don't consider it a problem. It's actually it's a great thing to see all these people interested in our site and wanting to be featured on our site. It's there's a lot of pride in that. So I really do my best to respond to everybody. Some people I think the toughest part about our website, honestly, is album reviews.
Because people they disagree, perhaps.
Oh God, do they? Yeah,
I bet.
But see, the thing is like, and there's bands that get really offended by it, and I don't blame them, because you figure as a band, and taking it, from an artist perspective, you put in all this time
working hard on it,
into an album. Just coming up with the songs, writing the songs, presenting it to your bandmates, all getting on the same page on that new song, and then tracking it, recording it, mixing it, mastering it, putting the artwork together, and then you finally get it out there and you send it to the Pier, and we give it a 2.5 star.
Right.
And that's hard. And at the same time, from our position is, we don't want to, we're trying to be a better friend of the bands by being honest. And
totally.
We want to say the things that maybe a lot of other people don't want to say because they're afraid of offending the band. And it's not that we're we want to offend the band. We never, in our reviews, we never bash albums. We never say, don't buy this sucks. You know, we never say that. We always state what we like and don't like, and we have a star rating to reflect that.
Right,
and it's 1 to 5 stars, 5 being the best. And we've never had a 5-star review, you know, and
well, there's something to be said for that too, because
Right.
people who check it out and depend on those reviews and kind of take them seriously, they want somebody who's going to be honest with them, and
Right.
they want it to be hard that you to get 5 stars. You know, if you're giving out 5 stars every time, or
yeah,
you know,
then
and-
it's like, well, then what's a good album to the Pier?
Totally.
It appears all the albums are great, you know,
Yeah,
and they're
right,
all
right.
just these mind-boggling, groundbreaking new albums, all of them.
yeah,
you
and
know?
then people go other places for their reviews because like,
Yeah.
this is not accurate.
See, now the Pier hasn't adopted that new age theory of all the little kids, athletes, and everybody gets to participate. You get to play.
Everybody
You
gets
get
a
to play.
medal.
Yeah.
You get a trophy. You
Everybody
get
gets a trophy.
Everybody's a winner.
Everybody's a 5-star album, you know. But you know, it's just we just try to hold a lot of the music accountable, you know. And at the end of the day, all we're doing is creating a discussion.
Yeah,
You know, we're not saying this album sucks. We're not saying don't pick up this album. You know, we rate albums from start to finish. You know, not, oh, the album had 3 great songs, but there was 12 tracks, 5-star. No way.
right.
No way.
Right,
you know,
right.
that if you're putting out an album, because what I like about albums, they used to mean more before it got digitally saturated.
Yeah, digitized.
You know, albums, they would tell a story. You know, a lot of them had a theme. They told a story, and it was your job to
Right.
listen to that album from start to finish and listen to that story, listen to what's being said. Now it's just, nowadays it's, you know, a lot of music that it's full of punchlines or different, you know, repetitive themes, and you really got to do more to stand out, you know, from everything else, from a lot of the mid-level band. And all the production on most of these albums today are great. You know, bands have access to great production.
Way more than in the past.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always something to be said for great production, but we really look at originality, you know, how unique is the album? Is it groundbreaking? And if it's not, I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know. You can still get a few good songs off a 10-track album. It doesn't mean the album's great, but there's some good songs. And,
Right.
and that's just what we try to talk about, you know. And
Yeah.
and like I was saying before, music is subjective. It's gonna speak to everybody differently. All we're trying to do is create the discussion, and you know, unfortunately, sometimes it could put a strain on different relationships that you have with bands. But at the end of the day, we're still promoting them. Even some of the bands that may throw shade our way because we gave them a 2.5 or a 3-star review, you know, we're still there unconditionally supporting their music.
I love it.
And we're still going to be. Even if the worst thing they can do is decline an interview and not give us show access to provide coverage at a live show. But still, regardless, we're going to unconditionally support their music and still talk about it openly and honestly. And that's, to us, that's what we contribute to the scene.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
I like the way you brought that up as a saying you're creating the discussion. So there's been many a video game that I had bought, you know, back in the day. You look at the ratings and everything, and you're like, I don't believe that rating. I'm going to play it. And you play the game, and you're like, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know, you play a video game, but then there's times when you sit there and you play a game, you're like, God damn, that game did suck, dude. Why didn't I just listen to the stupid review?
Right.
You're like, God, I'm going to go trade this in. 98 cents. 98 cents? I paid $60 for this game. I get 98 cents for trading? That's how you know that game was terrible. But no, I really like that philosophy of, you know, not having that, what is it, the Cavs owner and LeBron James moment.
Right.
You know, where you're like, you said something bad about me. You're never with us anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you want to come back? Sorry. No, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, more environment about truth.
Well, some bands, you know, they'll throw shade our way, and you know, it's just artists are very sensitive. You know, they're extremely sensitive, and I'm very empathetic towards that, and that's why we have that unconditional support. I want them to see the bigger picture, that we're still here talking about your music. You know, we may not
Totally.
think that your latest album is the greatest, but that doesn't mean that we think that you're a subpar band. We're
Yeah.
still covering you. We're still going to your shows.
Yeah.
We're still talking about your music. And, you know, I don't think that the Pier has a kind of influence to where if we say this album is a 2.5 star, fans will be like, oh, well, then I have no interest in listening to it whatsoever. Absolutely
Stephen
not.
Marley's album just bombs.
Yeah.
Because of the Pier.
Yeah, it's not the case.
No, I'm not going to get a Grammy
Right.
because of the Pier.
Never the case. Yeah. We just create the discussion. And the irony of it all, what's kind of funny on some of the diehard fans, you'll have one of those albums that's, just preaching one love and unity. And, maybe to us, the album didn't stand out as something that would be, a 4 or 5 star review. We might give it a 3 star, something with a few good songs. And their fans will just blast us and rip apart every sentence of it. It's like, man, what happened to the one love? What happened to that unity, man? Understanding.
Right.
Come on, man. You
should listen to that CD.
You don't have to say that our side is awful now. I mean, we just
Yeah,
but
no
at the
doubt.
same time, we're sensitive to it as well. So I mean, we get the feedback just the same. It comes with the territory.
I can
sure.
imagine that, like you were just saying, with the talking about how the artist, Tony, you can relate that, like you said, just you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it,
Exactly.
making sure everything is perfect to you, and just letting it out there, and then you get that feedback, and you're like, damn.
Yeah, right. But I think that's something just as an artist you expect in the world. When you make a song that not everybody on the planet's going to love it.
Right.
It's just one of those things. You do your best to be authentic and put what you have into it, and put that blood, sweat, and tears into it. But there's always that possibility that it's not going to come across perfect to everybody.
Right.
So it's kind of goes with the territory.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about you growing up in Southern California, there, San Diego. You a football fan?
Yes.
Are you a Chargers fan?
Yes. Oh no. Yes, I am.
My brother's a Chargers fan. Actually, he's a diehard Chargers.
Sounds
fan.
like a good man.
Oh, you got him wrong.
No, you got him wrong.
No, he's gonna listen. I don't know. Does he?
I actually don't know. I'll have to ask him. He may occasionally listen.
So, well, his dad listens too, and Mo's a Raiders fan.
Real quick, on a side note, I want to let you know next week, because Mike just had a birthday this week, and then my birthday's coming up too, so we're doing like a little birthday podcast next week, and we were trying to decide who we were going to have come on. You're not going to believe who our guest next week's gonna
Mo.
be. My dad, Mo, is coming on the show. Nice. He's a real outspoken Raiders fan. Pretty much talks shit to everybody all the time, particularly to Broncos and Chargers fans.
And
I
Mike
bet.
Pierce, in particular.
Mike Pierce,
Mike
who's a
Pierce.
Cowboys fan. That's just a personal vendetta there.
I don't know what Mo has out for me. He answered the phone the other day. I thought it was just Tony fucking around with me with an accent. It was Mo messing around with me.
Yeah, he was over here.
And he's like, keep on talking that shit. I'm going to get on that show. I guess it worked.
Yeah, no, it
guess
worked.
it worked.
It worked. I called him this morning and pretty much begged. He said, yeah, he's going to come on next week, so that'll
Awesome.
be a good time.
It's going to be a lot of stories, too, because he's in the Navy?
Yeah, he was actually stationed in San Diego.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the Chargers, though, man.
Yeah.
What do you think? How's it looking for the Chargers these days?
I'm most excited about this upcoming season. Now, I'm a huge Charger fan. I had season tickets with my dad for 15 years. So I was even there during the leaf year, which,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
the leaf year, yeah.
What'd
1
they
in
say?
15
They said that's the number one
snub.
number one snub in the draft
Yeah.
of all time. Number 2 is another California team, Jamarcus Russell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bust for sure.
I don't see how that's not number 1.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I think Jamarcus Russell is still running around free.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, no, I remember when what was the coach's name they let go because he couldn't get him in the playoffs? I'm spacing right now. He was a real great coach. This was a few years ago.
Marty?
Marty Schottenheimer.
Schottenheimer, yeah.
Yeah, I was bummed about that.
Yeah.
Went 14-2 and
Right.
first round bye, and we lose to the Patriots because we intercepted a ball, and then the guy that intercepted it fumbled it and gave it back to the
That's
Patriots,
right.
and that's
Yeah,
the only
yeah,
reason
yeah.
we lost. Otherwise, if he would have just laid down on the ball, we would have gone on to the next round.
Well, and I thought it was funny. The whole thing was we need to see more playoffs, success in the
Yeah.
playoffs, get in there more. And it was like the next year they went, and I think they
we won a game with North Turner,
and then lost the second one.
he inherited a team and a
LT
great
on that, right?
Yeah, he inherited a great
that's
team
right,
that Schottenheimer put together and ran it into the ground, and the new management is slowly bringing it back to life.
Yeah.
But they've been having to deal with the mess from the previous general manager. This is the first year that anything that the previous GM did is off the books. So I'm excited to see, and we have cap space. Chargers have cap space this
A
year,
lot
so
of potential there.
fill some gaps. So I'm pretty excited about this year in particular.
Yeah, we'll
with the
see
new
what
management and coaching staff. I taken Denver's coach Mike McCoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because we've got Fox now. I'm a Chicago Bears fan, so it's been
So he has
okay.
Gase
it's been a
and
long,
Fox
hard
and
lifetime.
Yeah.
Cutler and Marshall,
Yeah.
Gase, Fox.
They take all the Broncos leftovers, man. We used to have Kyle Orton. Did you mention that one?
Kyle
too?
Orton.
We used up Kyle.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I mean
We'll
it's
see.
just. I mean that happens with every team. There's hits and misses. It's like, I mean,
Because you're a Cowboy fan, right?
I'm a Cowboy fan, but
Yeah,
there's no
no.
misses there. It's all hits. That's all
Right.
it is. It's all hits right there. It's America's team.
Until that field goal snap comes.
That was a catch, by the way. That was a catch. Des Bryant.
Yeah, it was.
I agree.
I agree,
that
too.
was a catch.
Not technically by the rules is not, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the
They
problem.
need to elaborate or just like on those rules because, you discredit the guy for trying to. He made a football move, like it was said. So if anything, if it's a football move and if it hit the ground, it's a fumble. It's still down right there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but it's still like again, it's hits or misses. With San Diego, I think one of their misses, big time, was when Breeze got hurt. Breeze had that shoulder injury, and they were like, he's never going to be the same. Just like Colts did with Peyton. He's never
Manning.
going to be the same. He's never going to be the same. And then, and what happens? Breeze goes the.
I think the
No
biggest
one's-
miss for the Chargers, more than Breeze, was letting go of Rodney Harrison and Junior Seau that year. That was after the 2002 year. They thought Harrison was done. His best years were ahead of him, man. And Junior still played for a number of years after that. I think
went to
Both
I think-
incredible players,
Yeah.
too.
cutting the ties with them, not only was it bad just for the roster move, but it sent a bad message to any other free agent.
Yeah.
Of like, look, Junior was San Diego.
He was.
And they let him
He had
go.
the restaurants and everything.
They let him
everything
go.
Just, yeah.
Rodney Harrison, he was a huge impact in San Diego. He was part of the only Super Bowl that we went to. Let him go. They didn't show much loyalty to players, and I think that stuck out. With free agents, and we had a hard time and had to really rebuild through the draft. Hence LT and
Geez, another
and
one too, yeah.
another one that we let him go. It's and I think the new management alluded to that and wanting to correct that moving forward and having a little bit more loyalty to players that they draft and keeping them in house. So,
What picks do they have this year?
17th.
17th pick?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You kind of reminded me, though, talking about Junior Seau, how sad that was, man, when he...
And he's from Oceanside. That's my hometown.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when did you come to Colorado? When did
3
you...
years ago today.
That's it? Oh, wow.
Today. Yeah, 3 years ago today. I stepped off the plane.
Yeah.
Shit, that's worth an extra
Yeah.
cheers today.
Yeah, and I had no idea how far downtown Denver was from the airport. So when Kit, I was telling you about Kit Chalberg earlier, photographer for the Pier, he picks me up from the airport and is driving me, and all I see is nothing but fields.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where the hell did I move? Isn't there anything? And yeah, after the 20-mile exit off the airport freeway road, you start to see downtown and the horizon. And yeah, so I love it out here, though. The only thing it's missing is an ocean.
Yeah.
You got Chatfield. You got Chatfield. You got
Chatfield.
Cherry Creek Reservoir.
Did you,
Got a lot of reservoirs out here.
were you a surfer? Did you surf and stuff like that?
I know this is going to sound funny. I actually bodyboarded.
Me too.
Did you? Sponger.
Yes.
Fellow sponger.
Sponger. Hell yes.
Yeah, I got
We're the
called-
ones. We're like the shark bait because got the. Did you use flippers? Did you
Yes.
wear? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You have to
Yeah,
get
yeah, I
that
had
momentum.
fins. Yeah, and that's, speaking of the pier, that was always a big influence because I always surfed south side of the Oceanside Pier. And so all my Sense boardwear compilations, I always included the pier imagery in there because that was like a marquee. And I remember when Filippo came up with the pier.org, I didn't like it. I really didn't, honestly, when he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to start a site and it's called The Pier. I was like, oh, that's it? You're going to call it The Pier? I wasn't. And then as he explained it to me and as it went on, it made sense of like the pier is like a marquee, a place of gathering, somewhere where you can go to discuss the music,
Right,
somewhere you can go
right.
to that bonfire with friends or a surf.
Yeah.
And it just made sense in that realm. And growing up next to the pier and surfing Southside, it was kind of fitting to take over a company called the Pier. So it's
way cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
And I think it's kind of just like an inherent part of reggae music. You always think of the beach and the ocean and that stuff. That's cool. No, I was a sponger too, but I was up in way north in Humboldt County.
Oh, okay.
Up there in that freezing cold, shark-infested water, not really realizing what I was doing.
Wetsuit required signs.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. There was that one.
Wait, they have signs that say wetsuit required?
Absolutely not. That was a joke.
Oh,
yeah, that was a joke, Pierce.
That's a Colorado guy.
No, but you don't. There was one dude who used to always surf without it, which was he's just a nut job, man. I don't even know how you stayed in the water more than 5-10 minutes without freezing to death. But
yeah, and I wasn't a real diehard sponger. I was seasonal. If I had to put a wetsuit on, I was too lazy.
Yeah.
What I actually really like me and my cousin would do is longboard skating.
That was catching on when I left there.
Yeah, we bomb hills, and that was always really fun. I always had a blast doing that.
Yeah.
Wait, are you a rollerblader too back in the day? No.
I did have some fruit boots. Yes, I did have some fruit boots. And those were fun. That was what I used to. The only time I rollerbladed actually is when I take my dog for a walk.
He was the kind of rollerblader I was. See, we've talked about rollerblading in past episodes, and I was like, I was a rollerblader, and then these guys start talking about
X Games, me and Fran.
Yeah, no, that was not me at all.
But no, I was more into longboard skating though. Once I got a longboard skateboard, I fell in love with that, and I brought it out here, and I have yet to actually longboard skate since I've been in Denver.
Oh, really?
Nah, I just haven't gotten to it.
That's funny. I came out visiting my parents. My parents moved out here when I was pretty young, and this was the first place I actually skateboarded was out here. Oh. Never longboard, never got into that, but I had a pretty decent-sized board, and I had like the gigantic wheels on it. And I did that for a number of years until at Humboldt State one year I was coming down this really steep hill.
Whoops.
And I got the wobbles coming down where you just start flipping back and forth. You lose complete control of the board. Heading right for this it was like a metal pillar with concrete in it, like one of those traffic things. And at the last second I was about to just completely impact. It was like a bullseye, like right at it of all the places I could be going. So I just jumped off and like rolled down the hill and kind of jacked myself up, but it was pretty funny. It looked ridiculous because I jumped up really fast and I had a backpack on with a water bottle in it, and the water bottle when I jumped up went sploosh all over the back of my head and the side of my face, and I thought it was blood.
Oh God.
I went into like a total panic, like, oh
man,
I fucking killed myself.
No, that happened to me skating with my cousin. We would do night skates. I lived in a little neighborhood, and we had some decent hills nearby, and we went down this one hill a number of times. We just had fun with this one particular hill, and I think on the second or third time down, I caught the speed wobble.
Yeah.
I didn't even fight it. I plugged my nose and dove off, man, just like I was diving in the ocean. My cousin was behind me cracking up. I rolled down the hill and tore both AC muscles in my left and right shoulder, and my shoulders haven't been the same since.
I bet that's what I've heard when that happens.
So,
damn.
So now I just cruise around. I don't bomb hills.
You see, you're more of a man than me, though. You kept going.
I'm an old man.
My skateboard was in the pawn shop that day. I was like, forget it. No, there's bad things could happen.
Oh, yeah. Talking about, you said old man.
Yeah.
You just had a birthday, too.
Yeah, January 14th.
Really?
We're all...
Shit, happy birthday,
2 weeks
man.
out. You're 2 weeks from me, too.
Yeah.
When's your birthday?
February 9th.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So it's coming up pretty soon. How old are you, buddy? You
32.
32. Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind. I wear my stripes with pride.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
I have no
33?
problem saying how old I am.
Yeah, 35. Yeah, right. The wisest at the table, bitch.
Age before beauty, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which means Patty over here is the most beautiful person in this room.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Getting back to the pier just a little bit.
Yeah.
How many hours I'm just curious about this kind of stuff because me and Mike talk about time scheduling all the time and trying to have time for stuff. How much time do you put in a week, would you say? Just kind of running things.
God.
Probably don't even track it.
I don't. Yeah. I really don't. And some nights I'm on it longer than I think, because the thing with the pier that I don't think a lot of people know is that we all have day jobs.
Right. Dude, when I found that out, that blew my mind.
Yeah, we all have day jobs. I have a day job downtown. Some of us have families, kids, so it really depends. There's some weeks where, hell, I might put in 50 hours into the pier. Some weeks it might only be 10. I try to plan out ahead of time. We try to schedule articles out in advance. as you know, in a reggae scene, it's you don't always have that opportunity.
Totally, man.
Sometimes bands just bring it on you that day of great announcement here, share it, and it's like, son of a bitch, I got to put this article together.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Stoner members.
Yeah.
Bruh. Oh, dude. Bruh.
Did.
Hey, man.
Hey man, you cover my band?
And I'm just
Chong,
like,
that's a killer chong.
yeah. And I'm just like, well, when's your album come out?
Yesterday, man. Yeah, we sent it to iTunes and we forgot about it. And then iTunes let us know that it was up. If you, that'd be cool, man.
He's fucking killing me. He sounds just like Tommy Chong. Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah, no, I bet, dude. I can imagine.
So you try to stay up on a lot of it, and you want to, and at the same time, you want to be a source to introduce fans to new music, something that,
right.
You know, it's a balance. So it's not just bringing in all these articles and throwing them up the site. It's also providing that balance of, you know, roots reggae, ska, punk rock, and what's relevant, and trying to come up with actual unique stories too, not just echoing Facebook updates about a new album or a tour that's coming up, but trying to celebrate the whole genre itself. We have this new series that we've been doing for a couple months now called Album and Cover Art History, where we take a look at just different albums in history, and we just do our research on it. We try to see who the artist was on the cover, and we, you know, just try to dive into that. And that's actually one of my favorite projects, is kind of getting into the history of reggae and like the theme or the reasoning behind certain artworks, or I don't know. Getting into more of that kind of content is what I'm excited about, more than just promoting upcoming shows and music.
Sure, and I'm sure as time goes on, I mean, what you're interested in probably changes too.
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, I mean, you started with clothing, you know.
Well, yeah, just like bands. I mean, their influences change. I mean,
yeah, totally.
You know, there were people that were so bummed about Dirty Head's last album, because there's those diehard Dirty Head fans that grew up loving that acoustic hip hop reggae, and now they're putting on more of electronic hip hop album, and they're like, I like the old stuff. And it's like, well, they grow too, you know. They get new influences, and that's not just Dirty Heads, that's every band. And one of the best advices I got was when I interviewed Miguel Happel. You know, he was one of the principal writers and main guys with Sublime, and what he said is, you either write music that you like, or you write music that you think other people will like.
Yeah.
And that just really broke it down for me, man.
Truly.
And that, it kind of defined a lot of bands, you know, for me, you know, it kind of changing that up a little bit. So I don't know. I thought that was great advice.
Yeah, no doubt it is.
I like that the idea of the finding out the backstories of everything. Because, like, I remember in college, for me, I had an art appreciation class that I did. And one of them I did was on an artist called Rick Griffin.
Okay.
And Rick Griffin was the man that actually made the famous Jimi Hendrix eye poster.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? The detached eye and everything like that.
Definitely.
And he made like a whole bunch of different album art for just different bands all the time, but mostly Jimi Hendrix. And it just intrigued me, you know, going to the art appreciation, kind of find out the backstory. Because you look at something, you're like, that has a story to it. Yeah. And you're like, oh, what the hell is that? You know, it's like, how did they come up with that and stuff like that? And so, like, Rick Griffin, how he came up with that was that he was in a car accident and he detached his eye.
Oh, snap.
And so that's how that famous poster
Art
came
imitating
about.
life, huh?
Yeah, and so and so he used that eye for a lot of the stuff that he did with his art, and it was just kind of cool.
That's amazing
to hear about that. And I always wondered too, like, I like that you're like digging into that part in the Pier where it's like you're getting the backstories of everything. Because I always wondered, like, when you think about it, you see things like, you know, how did they come up with that album name? You're like, what the fuck is chocolate starfish and hot dog flavored water, Limp Biscuit? You're like, what is that? You know, and you just to kind of hear exactly where it comes from.
Yeah, well, talking to the artist directly is amazing. I had an opportunity to speak with Opie Ortiz about the 40 Ounce to Freedom cover with Sublime, the Sublime Son, and just telling me how it's a bunch of
what you got on your shirt.
What you got on your shirt right now.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so it's like a bunch of various images coming together to create a central image. You know, and how it's just art, or it's just God, what did he say? It was life and death and breathing life back into it. Just, you know, hearing how he comes up with the concept and the time period in which it came around, how, you know, he was spray painting T-shirts at the time and the bands were wearing it, and it just, that led to the being the album cover. And I don't know. There's a lot of great info. The same thing with No Doubt's cover. I think we covered Tragic Kingdom.
Oh, geez.
And the title of Tragic Kingdom actually came from one of the members. His high school teacher referred to Disneyland as Tragic Kingdom.
Okay.
And because the group was from Anaheim, where Disneyland is essentially is, you know, in Orange County, and they titled it, you know, Tragic Kingdom, and it had Gwen Stefani's brother in the background, in the very back of the picture, because he was the original lead person of No Doubt. And
that's the
lead vocalist.
Yeah,
and
the crazy story about that was that he got really sick, right? He got really sick, and then he had his sister, Gwen, take over for one of their concerts they did, one of their performances they did, and there happened to be a publisher, a record person there, and it was like, oh my gosh, you know?
Yeah, because I think the band was thinking about folding, and she stepped in, and she insisted on her brother being on the cover. So they put him kind of in the distance, and the rest of the band is kind of to the right, and Gwen is, you know, posing on the front. And, you know, it's kind of interesting to hear that, because I just don't think there's that kind of depth today around cover arts, because there's no real theme or story being said in an album. It's just a bunch of collective songs being recorded together for an album. We'll come up with a catchy title that, you know, labels us somehow, and we'll take a picture, have somebody do the artwork for us, you know. But I don't think there's as much thought or depth that goes into it today that it used to, when albums were, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, when you got records or that new CD, and you just, I don't know, it's not the same.
I think that's
it's all part of the packaging, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the old guys at the table right now,
right?
Because that's me. Whenever I got a new fucking CD, you know, when I got a new album, you know, you opened up that card. You wanted to see if they
read
had
the credits,
in there,
the lyrics,
if they had the lyrics in there. You know, they saw different things, the different arts, the pictures of them, the multiple pictures that they had on there. You know, there was multiple times where I skipped school to go get albums.
Oh yeah, right, totally.
Multiple times. I mean, I remember I went to go get Eminem's album. I went to go get the new Dr. Dre, the Chronic album. I skipped school to go get that.
Spend the whole day listening to it and reading the inserts.
Exactly.
Right.
Korn.
Yeah.
I got when Korn Issues came out. I just skipped and went down to Best Buy. Right.
You're a Korn guy, huh? I didn't know that.
Back in the days. Yeah.
I remember '99 when Long Beach Dub All Stars put out their first album, Right Back.
Yes, sir.
I was in class. I couldn't freaking wait. And it was a Tuesday, and I'm sitting there looking at the clock. And I was like, okay, cool. My mom picked me up from school. You know, I was kind of a sophomore.
Yeah.
And picks me up from school and takes me right to the warehouse. I don't know if they have the warehouses. Did they ever have the warehouses in Colorado?
Well, you have to ask me, because Tony was still.
I'm from California myself.
Okay, so you know about the warehouse.
Here we had Media Play, Best Buy, stuff like that. I mean, we had Angelo's too, which is
independent,
like a small time. Yeah.
And see, we didn't have a lot of record stores. So I'd go to the warehouse, which was kind of a corporate chain down the street from my house, and picked up the album and threw it in on the ride home, and just immediately reading the inserts and the packaging and the photos, the artwork, just the whole visual of it all was just amazing to me.
Yeah.
And you compromise that in a digital social media world where just pictures are just everywhere.
Yeah, and so frequently people just download the one song they want, and it's really all they care about is the MP3. They don't. Yeah, man, there was so much to that, like the album and the stuff, the artwork that came with it, and the story behind it, and the lyrics, and
that's what made you fall in love with the band. That's what made you connect with the band more than just a good song. And what's hard with reggae has that beat that it just sounds good. Reggae sounds good by itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and it's what you do differently with it, whatever different spin you put on it to stick out. And, you know, that's what's hard with music today is, you know, with reggae, it's a lot of it sounds good. And, you know, really the singer or the whole arrangement or the originality kind of make you stand out. But there's just bands put so much emphasis on singles. You know, putting out singles. So there's constant singles coming out. And they're all trying to push boundaries now. Some of it's getting hated on. Some of it's embraced. But it's nothing like how it was when you went to the record store to discover new music. You talk to the guy behind the counter, you know, about what's coming up, what's coming in. And it just... I don't know. That's
just even,
that's where I grew up, and that's
Me too.
That's
Well,
what
that's
I
what I'm
love.
saying,
Yeah, we're all part of that time
when I was
period.
in, it was Media Play here, which is a big sound too, a big big scene. It was a chain store. They were with Suncoast. I don't know if you guys had Suncoast out back then. So it was Suncoast Media Play. But yeah, I would remember going there, and it was just like, music. It was also video games. They had a board up for upcoming albums.
Right.
And you were just like, oh my gosh, what? You were
Right.
just like, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here. And, when you got that album, like we were just saying, there's this feel, that physical touch of things. And when, you were just saying Korn, when Korn came out with Issues, they had like, I think it was three limited edition covers.
Yeah.
So they were different ones, and you were like, oh my gosh, I got to get the one specific one. And there was one that I wanted, and it was like the Dolls. And it was on Issues, and there's like the Dolls, and that's the one I wanted.
Right.
And so I made sure, like, when Best Buy opened at 10 o'clock
You were there.
here in Colorado, right off of Mississippi and 225, I was at Best Buy when the store was opening, ran into there, and like there was a whole bunch of people there too. Running in there, I made sure that I got that limited edition.
That's
Dolls
dope.
one.
Yeah, I still think there's an appetite for it out there. I mean, it's just these mass markets now that people are really trying to tap into. It's all singles and
Yeah, and the thing that, again, going back to Miguel, and that's probably one of the best interviews I've ever done, man. It just so enlightening. He said that, music it's not supply-based, it's demand-based. But a lot of bands operate that it's supply-based, that, if I just supply the industry with music, they'll love it. There's got to be a demand for it. And you have to work towards that demand. You can't just expect to write that one song right away and expect there to be people wanting it.
Yeah.
You really got to work at that demand. And that's the best advice I can give to bands, just in my experience running the Pier the last, since 2008. Gosh, I've been a part of it. It's just work on yourself. Everyone else will take notice. They will. Especially if you just stick at it, continue to network with other bands, collaborate, get in the studio, just figure it out. I mean, just keep producing, even if it sucks at first.
Yep.
Don't be offended. Just keep at it.
I'm so glad
because they'll take notice of it. Everyone will. I will take notice of it. Good music is just good music, and you can't deny it.
Right.
And if you just stick at it, stay at it, and that's essentially, what Miguel told me that Sublime did. They didn't just go on a tour just to tour.
We're Sublime, and now we're famous.
Yeah, no, they did it during their breaks. When they were on summer break from college or school, that's when they would go on tour. They didn't just tour just to tour. They waited till there was a demand, until they could be paid to suffice that tour. And that's something that kind of stuck out. That it's like, yeah, that makes sense. A lot of bands, they have it easy these days. They don't have to depend on making photocopy flyers and dishing them out around town.
Totally.
They just get on Facebook, come up with
Take a picture from their phone.
Yeah, get their
post it
homie
on.
who's good in graphic design to come up with this bitchin' looking logo that just looks professional, and market the home recordings, which is great, but it takes a lot more than that.
Yeah, I never cease to be amazed when I talk to people, whether sometimes musicians, sometimes not, but a lot of times it's people like me, independent artists that are out there doing it. There's always this perception that they put out the one single and then they just exploded and everything fell into place for them and their career was happy there ever after.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't. Every single artist that you talk about that has a certain level of success commercially or otherwise, just being able to do it for a living and, make money playing shows, etc. There's a shit ton of grinding that goes into that.
Oh, yeah. Like Dirty Heads. You brought up Lay Me Down earlier.
Yeah.
They've been around 6 years before that song came out.
Yeah,
Most people hear them for the first time, oh, it's this new band. It's like, they're not new.
They're not new,
They've been around 6-7 years, and
Yeah.
they finally got a break with a good song. It just takes that constant grind. There's a lot of bands out there that people are like, Soja's becoming huge.
Yeah,
unbelievably huge.
Yeah.
And
Great group.
and I'll talk to a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm starting to listen to this new band called Soja. It's like, no, man, they've been around for like 12 years, 10, at least 10 plus years.
Well, it's like with I don't know if you guys have cable or anything. You have Palladium, that channel Palladium.
No, I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just like an artist. It's literally like just music. It's
think you told me about this.
True MTV. It's like they do concerts. They cover concerts. They do like there's this thing with like
Guitar Center sessions? Or
Yeah,
there's a
you know what? I
station
saw
that's got
that.
that.
Yeah, that's stuff like that. It's crazy. And it's
I
like,
did see that guitar.
they had,
Center.
and they had, I remember watching this like a year ago, and they had Slightly Stupid on there.
Okay.
And so they were talking about Slightly Stupid and how many band members they have and everything like that. And people are like, you guys got mainstream and big and everything like that. And they were like, yeah, and a lot of people don't know. We've been doing this for 20 years. And like, they were like, they were like, what? Like people didn't know because they just got mainstream, a few years before that. And they were just like, a lot of people were like, we just got mainstream, but we've been a band together for like 20 years.
It does, man.
Like from high school. These guys
Yeah.
were in a band since like high school, I think. A lot of them.
Yeah, no, and what I was told about them is Bradley Knoll from Sublime discovered Slightly Stupid.
Yep.
The singer Miles, his mom's a nurse, and Brad, was really sick at the time. And this is a story that came from Miguel during my interview with him, and he said that Miles' mom decided to bring him in when Brad was trying to recover from drugs. He was real sick and brought him in there to help him recover. And he kind of stumbled out into the garage and saw this, punk rock band going on. And, the rest is history. That's how he discovered Miles and Kyle jamming in the garage. And
Slightly Stupid.
Ended up, getting them on Skunk Records and recording them. And, you got to give a lot of credit to their management too. Silverback, they, a lot of the formula that they did with like Long Beach Dub All Stars. When Long Beach Dub All Stars came out, they had just a slew of guest appearances. They had Barrington Levy, they had Half Pint, Tippa Irie, Danger. They had all these cats on their album, on both albums. They had a bunch of guest appearances. And as Dub All Stars kind of broke up, more of the emphasis was put on Slightly Stupid around that same time period of 2000 to 2002.
Right.
And they kind of took that same formula with Slightly Stupid, their management, and bringing in more guest appearances. And since then, Slightly Stupid is just known for working with so many different, guest appearances. Angela Hunt,
that's true.
Charlie
I never
Tuna
really thought about that.
Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5, same thing with Barrington Levy and G Love. They work with so many and network with so many different artists. And I think that's kind of part of the formula of success that this whole reggae community has seen has been from that. Because then you see other reggae bands doing the same thing. Soja, their last album had so many guest appearances. They had Nako on there, Michael Franti.
Was Michael Franti on that?
Yeah, he was on their album. Revolution put out their last two albums, had guest appearances, and it's just you're building a network, a community network, and sometimes maybe those cats come with you on tour and you perform a lot of those songs live, and it really sets the tone. People are taking photos of that, they're taking videos and putting them on their own YouTube. So that I think the collaborations and the networking, I think that's what's really helped make this scene really strong, the whole Reggae-Rock community. And I think it really started with, from what I remember, with Silverback. They really put a lot of emphasis on that. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that approach.
Yeah, no doubt. I didn't know. I mean, I knew that was the name of them.
And that's where I got my inspiration. When I would put out compilation albums, I wanted to do collaboration songs because of all the collaboration songs I heard on the Slightly Stupid album. It's like, oh man, it would be tight to get this rapper with that singer over this kind of beat. And, I had a producer friend who would put the beat together and we'd send it and they'd send the vocals back. And
dude, that sounds like a blast.
The most thrilling experience of my life was doing that.
Man.
It was working with Justin Jones at a Paradigm Studios. I think I lived out of that studio for like 6 years, and we would just have bands come in and record, and we would mess around at 4 or 5 in the morning just over these weird beats. And there's a whole vault of that stuff somewhere. It's pretty funny.
Yes, dude.
Yeah. No, the collaborations are dope. I remember like back in the day, like one of the collaborations that I loved when I was a kid was when Jay-Z and Linkin Park.
Oh yeah.
Did that Collision Course.
Yeah.
Collision Course is what it was, and you were just like, wait, Jay-Z with Linkin Park?
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Well, even a more recent one with Damian Marley and Nas.
Yes.
Oh,
that was
yes.
so
insane.
good.
So insane.
Yes.
So
to me, I'd love to see more of that. Or another good idea that used to happen that you don't see anymore was, did you ever see that NoFX Rancid Split album? It was a 10-song album. And it was Rancid covering 5 NoFX songs, and NoFX covering 5 Rancid songs. And I thought that was and they did a whole tour to push it. And
Wow.
I would love to see more bands doing that today. You know, taking different interpretations from bands that they network and respect, and you know, just putting something together for fun. Fans love that, and it gives you a different spin on, you know, different perspective from different bands, and I love it. I wish more bands in the reggae rock community would do stuff like that.
That is such a damn cool idea. BYO Split Series Volume 3, it was called. Had they done this with other artists too?
It's been done quite a bit. That's the one that sticks out the most to me.
I never even heard of that.
Yeah, in fact, one of my favorite covers is NoFX doing Rancid's song "Radio." It's just a great cover. They break it down. It's a little acoustic. It's fun hearing NoFX play a reggae song.
Yeah, I gotta check that out for sure.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good one.
That's cool. What was the last concert you went to?
Oh gosh, honestly, man, I haven't really been to concerts that much lately. The last concert I went to was probably Dirty Heads when they played at Red Rocks.
Okay.
For their Sound to Change tour with Pepper. I think that was the last one that I've gone to.
Was that 13?
That was September. That was in September 13th, I think.
Yeah, September in 2000. No, this last
14.
Year.
Yeah, 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think this last September, that was the last concert that I went to, and there's been a lot of shows that have come through here, and that's what I like about Denver is all the bands come through Denver on tour.
Yep.
Going from east to west, they can't go around
They
Denver.
have to get through.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they'll stay here for a few days. You know, they'll stay.
Because
here
what
for
are
the
your
weekend.
options, really?
Yeah,
You can go through New Mexico. You can go through Wyoming.
Yeah.
You can go through Montana. No, you want to go through Denver.
And they'll spend a few days here because there's nothing in Utah. You know, so it's like, well, we got to get through Utah, so let's have budget for that and play a few shows in Denver. And you know,
let's stay in Denver and then drive all the way through Utah. We're not even going to stop.
yeah.
Right now I'm looking at your guys' content schedule, which I think is pretty cool. You've got like Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, every day of the week basically broken down, like what's coming out that day.
Yeah, and that's a little outdated. I got to update that.
Is it?
Yeah. For Mondays we like to do album reviews.
Yep.
Because typically albums come out on Tuesdays. And
is that right? I didn't even know that.
Yes.
What's up with that?
It's been like that forever, dude.
Yeah, but what's up? Why Tuesdays? Seems like such a weird day.
You know, I'm not... There is a reasoning behind it,
sure.
and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But they always come out on Tuesdays, and so we always like to have our album reviews go up before the album drops, you know, because that's the best time to create the discussion.
Dope. Yeah.
Ideally, we like to have album reviews up a week before the album comes out. But, you know, if we get it up the Monday before the Tuesday release, that's great too. And Tuesdays, we like to do interviews. You know, that's same day as the album comes out. It's nice to have
plug their album.
When you say do the interviews, you're talking about stuff basically coming out, being released, or are you talking about actually doing interviews and releasing it?
Oh, no, actually interviewing bands.
Okay.
If we interview a band, we'll publish it on a Tuesday.
Gotcha.
You know, and that's usually to coincide with their release, you know.
Right.
At that point, people are picking up the album, and it's nice to put out like an interview where they're talking about the album that they just picked up. So you can absorb the information while listening to the new album. So
yeah, that's got to be the shit, though, dude. You got the album before anybody else does.
It is the shit. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it is nice.
That was
being a music fan. I mean, who doesn't love being able to hear the music before it comes out?
No doubt.
And sometimes that backfires if it's one of your favorite bands and it's an album you're not a big fan of. That's really tough.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough,
Like
especially
you talked about
doing
earlier.
the Pier.
Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy how you were saying, you know, you guys had that acoustic series. We did the ATMT Presents. We got a couple more from Tony's friend David Freshman, Fresh.
Right.
And we had the one that we put on there, River Days, and that was a song that he hadn't played for anybody.
Yeah, it was the first.
But the first
kind of in the same
recording.
vein of sort of what like the Piers really into that, obviously, too, getting that original material.
Right.
that's
And then he
not
did a
already
couple
out there.
more songs for us that he hasn't released on there, and Tony's going to get those mixed down and
Yep.
put up there soon too. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's nice to be able to, like, when he sent that, like, and he was like, when he played it for us, and then afterwards he told us, because like when he's playing the River Days, And he's playing that for him. I was like getting chills, like listening to that, and you're just like, dude, that is dope. And then when he was like, you guys are the first people to hear this, and I was like, wow,
that's pretty cool.
shit. You're like,
We'll take it.
yeah.
Well, that same story with the Cass Haley live acoustic series. When we did that, he had just finished writing the song, getting off the bus to come perform it for us. So the first time he'd ever performed that live was that live acoustic series.
It's so good too.
And the guy doing percussions on that,
Yeah.
I can't think of his name offhand, but it's on the credits. He learned the song on the spot. He was just there, and we wanted somebody to do percussions. They did a couple takes together before we started shooting, and that was the first time that he had ever played Crazy Good Woman live, and that's one of my favorite. And that was our very first live acoustic series video.
The Cass Haley one?
Yeah, that was our first
wow.
one.
What a way to kick that shit off.
Yeah, we premiered that, I think November of 2012 is when we premiered that. So it's pretty amazing to be able to hear that first, and be able to put that out first.
Yeah.
And what's cool is you listen to that acoustic, how it's stripped down in its primitive form, just like that, and then you hear his studio version and play the two together. And you can see how much a song evolves and how much how much of it evolves in a studio with the producer and the production of it. And me personally, I'm always biased to the stripped down acoustic.
That's so funny, man. I really am the same way. I just love really stripped down acoustic music, and as a songwriter, that's something I'm always looking for is without all the bells and whistles, without all the frills, what's really at the core and the heart of this song, and that's what I love. But I had that experience because I just went last weekend into the Spot Studios and laid down a song I wrote a number of years ago called "Dancing in the Sunshine." It's a great tune and everything, but when I went into the studio and we had a drummer playing on it and the kind of the bass player bringing his take and keyboard and everybody coming together with harmony ideas and stuff, it became a whole nother thing. It's like it's one of those things where I really love it and it's still got a pretty acoustic feel to it, but anytime there's collaboration and you're spending time hammering out hours in the studio like that, it sort of builds on itself and becomes this whole new entity where you just go, wow, that's pretty cool.
Damn it, is it going to be a catchier tune now?
Kind of.
Damn it.
That's the plan.
Because as it stands, I always tell him, every time I hear Dancing in the Sunshine, I'm just like, God, it's stuck in my head, dude.
I'm so excited, dude. I'm so excited. I'll have the final mix on February 4th.
Awesome. Send it over. I'd love to hear it.
For sure, man.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
but just the one song, not hundreds songs.
So the backstory behind that.
Yeah,
why don't you
ahead.
go ahead and tell him, Tony?
Yeah, Mike Pierce let me know one time that it was an open invitation to send some music in Patty's direction for the Pier, and I just being the got super excited and thought, oh shit, I've been recording like crazy, and I don't even know how many songs I sent you, buddy. I am so sorry, but I must have
probably around 30.
Yeah, I think
it was around 30.
I think it was like 25. I thought it was like 25.
Yeah, it was a lot, and I remember because I worked with Pierce at the time. I'd come into work and he's like, "So have you listened to Tony?" I was like, "No,
dude,
I haven't gotten it to it yet, man." He sent me his whole catalog. I don't know where to start.
And that is exactly. I remember that because I was like, "Yeah, did he send it to you?" He's like, Tony sent me like 25, 30 songs.
No.
And I was like, whoa.
I did to that, maybe, but I did send a lot.
Yeah.
No, but it's one of those things like we were talking about, I've been doing this a long time. I've been playing and writing, and I feel really strong in writing and performing.
You were excited.
Yeah, totally. But as time goes on, you figure these things out. You're just kind of like, that was a stupid thing to do. You send a million friggin' songs. Like, this is your chance to make one impression, and the only impression you're making is that you can't decide what song to send. So you're sending a million.
Well, I mean, I feel bad because I have no idea when I'll be able to get around to listening to all that. Because it's like, and it's not that I don't, it's not that I don't want to listen to new music or everything that's being sent. It's just all the time.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Oh, geez.
After a while, it's just, to be honest with you, I play my old hits on the regular just because it's something that I can sit down and feel comfortable with and get right into my groove of work, hearing my favorite Sublime hits or the stuff I used to listen to 10 years ago. It's been really hard to get into new music these days, and because there's so much of it, you almost don't have time to really sit down and absorb it. If I had to ask you, when's the last time you really genuinely sat down
with the intention of listening
and just listen to music? I mean, maybe you turn out the lights, you throw the phone across the room, and you just listen to the music. And if I'm being honest, it's been a long time since I've had that kind of relationship with music to where I just sit down with a record, tune everything out, and just listen to it.
Man, and I think that ties so much into what we were talking about too, how it's changed,
Yeah.
and listening to an album. I mean, so many times you sit down and listen to an album start to finish, but exactly right, man. You turn the lights off, and have a drink, and maybe a little smoke, and chill
just
out.
tune into the music, and tune
Yeah.
everything else out. And a lot of the times we have it on headphones while we're working out at the gym, while we're walking
Right.
to work, or
working.
Yeah, doing
Totally.
It's almost like background soundtrack to your day. But when have you really sat down and tried to just listen to it and zone out to it? I think it does play into that there's just so much music out there. Where back in the day, where you were so excited to go to the record store on
Yep.
release day, you set your whole afternoon aside to listen to that album. Now
Yeah,
it's like, well, I'll
right,
put a
right.
mixtape, or I'll put a playlist together, or
Background
I'll
music.
just throw Spotify on my favorite channel or
Yep.
whatever.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's really
Pandora.
fun. Let's do. I got a question. If you had, speaking of albums, if you were stuck on a desert island for the rest of your life,
So easy.
and you had one album,
Yeah.
it's the only one you got.
It's already with me.
What is it?
40 Ounces to Freedom.
Oh, right. I
Yeah.
should have guessed that
Yeah.
one. What do I-
And I feel so lucky that I can answer that question just completely confidently. That's just one album. I can take that with me because everything is on that album. I have hip hop, I got punk rock, I got reggae, I got
So true.
Everything's on there.
Yeah.
For 20 songs, that's a no-brainer. That's easy. Every time I'll take that with me.
Mike Pierce, you're on an island for the rest of your life. You got one album that you can listen to.
Gratitude by Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Ah, that's a good
guy
one,
over here.
buddy.
I'm an old soul, guys. I'm an old soul. That came out.
You are.
I think Gratitude came out in '75. So like
You weren't even
7
alive.
years before I was
You weren't
born.
even born.
Like, 7 years. No, but that's me. I'm old school. Gratitude by Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Nice.
What about you, Dollar?
Catch Fire, Bob Marley's first full-length release.
That's what
Oh,
you're.
wow.
Catch a Fire. You ever hear that?
Well,
Oh yeah. We
Yeah.
did a feature on that album. I think 2 years ago they just celebrated the 40th anniversary of it.
Yep.
And they actually had a different cover when it was originally released. When you look at the cover of the record, it was going to open up like the flint on a Zippo lighter.
Really?
So the first 1,000 were printed with the flint.
What?
Like it looked like a Zippo lighter, and it opened up, and the record even looked like part of a flame. It had like, you look up the original artwork, and it just became so expensive for them to mass produce that they just decided to change the cover to Bob Marley smoking a joint.
Yeah, which was cool too.
Yeah, and that's fine
no,
as well.
That's no ordinary joint.
I mean,
either.
how many
That's
of
like,
those records, how many joints were rolled on that cover? You know what I mean? Over the
Right.
years.
No doubt. Oh, that's really interesting, man. I want
Yeah.
to check that out. It came up in the search, but I can't seem to find any kind of. Like, I wanted to see a picture of it. I was hoping, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
No, it's a good one. No, man, I love that album. I listened. That's the one I had in my truck for 4 years or something.
That's a great album.
Just
What was
listened
that,
to it over and over and over.
Was that you said that's one of your tattoos?
No,
No, song redemption song.
Redemption song. Yeah,
Yeah.
to be not yet tattooed, but I'm gonna get
Yeah.
the music for that dun, 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 dun. Like the little beginning. I'm gonna get the music for that basically wrapped around my left arm. So-
The notes.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, with the music,
so, like,
the clef and all that.
You were the one that showed me one of that. They had, was it The Voice UK?
The dude who did
that
the
did
Redemption song.
song.
It was
Oh, yeah.
ridiculously good.
Sounded just
Yeah, he was great.
like
yeah, that was very,
I don't
very
even remember what
strong,
his name
strong
was, but it was
performance.
you that
Well,
showed
they
it
had
on.
a couple on the recent season. I think a girl covered.
Yeah, what was her name
I
with the
forget.
short hair? Oh,
She was from Jamaica.
she was super good too.
Yeah, she was really great. She covered it and did a pretty good job of it.
Nassan. What was her?
So do you also keep track of like The Voice and stuff like that? Do you watch
Pop
any of
culture
the pop culture
stuff?
stuff?
Here and there, I check like Rolling Stone, Yahoo News, CNN, just general news, and if I see something that's relevant, we might do our own take on it. We'll do our own take, but I'll try to include like quotes from bands within our community to bring them involved and get their perspective. But yeah, we've covered a couple. As long as it's relevant with The Voice. There was a guy that covered Sublime on there that I thought took balls because,
Wow, what song did he do?
oh man, he did Santeria. and that's tough to do.
Yeah.
I just started learning that tune. I'm working that into the set.
And to cover that on live television like that, I mean, that you gotta give the guy credit. I don't think he did it justice, but it takes balls to be able to
Just
do
to
that.
do it,
and we
yeah.
covered it.
That's cool.
because Gwen Stefani's on there, and she has history with Bradley Knoll from Sublime.
I just recently learned about all that. I didn't even
Yeah.
know how tight that community was. She performed with them and stuff.
Oh
I
yeah,
had no clue.
He was featured on one of their songs. I think Total Hate. So they she was talking about it, and bringing a little insight to her relationship with Sublime when critiquing him, and I thought that was relevant to share on our site. So if I see something
That's
that's
right, because
relevant,
she was on the show as a judge. I
as a
forgot about
judge,
that.
yeah. So if it's relevant to the site, we'll cover it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, we just we usually stick within the community, or if there's different discussions that we think might be interesting to bring up, we will.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen stuff on your Facebook and everything. You definitely pay attention to what's going on. You have some pretty intelligent things to say, too, outside of the whole. And it's pretty cool, man. It's good stuff. But I imagine, if it does fit into what you're doing, it's cool. But otherwise, you're kind of speaking to a certain culture and a certain group of people that are looking for something when they go to your site. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dope, man. It's been really good. We're in the last minute here of the podcast.
Oh, right on.
But it has been absolutely killer having you, man. I really apprate you coming on.
Thank you guys for having me on. This has been fun.
Yeah, definitely sharing your experiences.
And thank you for bringing the Zimas. I don't know where you guys got those.
2000.
Yeah, Mike's been putting Jolly Ranchers in them.
Oh my gosh, that was before
Grape is good. I like grape. I like the grape Zima.
That was before Smirnoff.
Oh God!
I used to do that like
Just
crazy.
for the record, there's no Zimas at our table. We've got a funny man over here, Mike Patty. No, we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for coming on, man. It's been a great episode. Let's see. Next week we've got my dad coming on. That sounds crazy, but he's been a guest we've been trying to get on for a while. Mo Dog, official. I think we'll put his bio that he's officially a shit talker. I think that's right.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun episode next week. Any shout outs, anything you want to say? Thepier.org, man.
Thepier.org.
Yes.
Or thepiermag.com. Not many people know about that. The Pier Mag. It's just the same thing.
Point to the same place.
Yeah, points to the same thing. Yeah. Thepier.org or thepiermag.com.
So if you were like me and you were into reggae, rock and roll music, anything that's out there happening reggae-wise, the place to check it out is thepier.org. So please go there as I struggle to shut the alarm off my phone for the third episode in a row. Well, that stupid thing always goes off.
And anything cool upcoming that you want to announce that's happening?
Actually, we got invited to Hawaii. So the Pier is going to be going to Hawaii from February 24th to March 1st, courtesy of EKM Records.
That's sick.
Hell
We're going to go out there and document some of their bands. I'm going out there with David Norris and Blake Taylor, who's with the Pier. So we're going to go out.
I tried to invite myself on that one too.
He was late. But we're very excited about that. So, we're hoping that leads to more opportunities to be able to get on the road and do some Almost Famous, the movie, Almost Famous type work, document bands on the road. That's what we'd love to do. So,
no doubt. Good stuff, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Go to thepier.org. Check it out. Good stuff when it comes to music and reggae. Don't forget about our sponsor, Tony Dollar Music. That is my company. Got an album coming out coming this summer, actually. Got an EP that'll be dropping. Dance in the Sunshine will be released as a single. Probably here coming up in February sometime, maybe on a Tuesday.
And Tony also has a show at the Bistro Alvino in Centennial.
February 10th.
February 10th, this Tuesday. So if you guys want to check that out, little, what you say, like a 30-minute set you got going
on. A little short one, early in the evening. It's good for a Tuesday. People don't got to worry about staying out too late. But Mike Pierce will be there. Bruce Leroy will be there. It'll be a good time. Thank you all for listening. We will be back next week.
Yes, sir.
We got to do our ceremonial toast. Yeah, you got it.
All right.
That's a wrap, fellas.
Boom.
All right, cheers.
Saturday, bitches.